and process of giving credit. This is important that you ask every mortgage company to test, and you as developers and suppliers should ask for this, because you don't want a buyer who will default on you. If a buyer defaults on me, it defaults on you. You lose your future market. The 3 C's that I've always talked about and we always talk about in the industry. Capacity of somebody to pay back, income level, type of job, type of deposit, or down payment the person is paying, because the down payment is very important. The down payment gives the person what we call skin in the game. That's how it's different from renters. A down payment gives somebody the ability to say, I have now put a stake in this asset and I'm on my way to owning it. I own 10% of it, I'm going to own 100% over time. That is very different than just renting somebody who will just keep renting, not care about your property, and walk away one day, or not walk away one day when you want him to walk away. So capacity is very important of the individual. The next thing is to understand the collateral. Is the collateral really worth anything today? And if it is, what is the true value of that collateral? And what is its short to long-term staying power of the value? That is where developers come in. That is where you have to build properly and build transparently, so that you're building true value proposition for us, the financiers, as well as the end buyer. That's where we create transparency in the transaction. And finally, obviously, creditworthiness, which is very important. You have to look at the character and creditworthiness of the individual. Has the individual you're doing business with, is it the kind of character or person that can manage their finances well? That's where credit agencies play a role. That's where background checks play a role. We have to do that for your sake and for ours. Those are the 3 risk-bearing C's that are very important that you need to look for. Finally, a streamlined operation. Why? Well, when a buyer wants to become a homeowner, he wants to make a decision. If you delay that decision, if you are inaccurate about that decision, you are creating unnecessary nervousness, not only for the buyer, but for the seller. A streamlined operation, the mortgage operation, has to be able to be transparent in all its processes, whether it be origination, closing, servicing, has to be transparent to the home buyer, streamlined, so that within 24 hours, a mortgage company can turn around and give somebody a real pre-approval on what kind of house to buy. So they can walk into the industry, to brokers, to agents, to developers, and say, I've been approved for this much, this is the house that I'm looking for. If the house is there and the developer is willing to build to that, then the mortgage fund company can feel comfortable to even do the construction financing. Because we need that level of comfort through our system. And you need that level of understanding that, should I build for this, and should I go to the company, mortgage finance industry and say, look, I'm willing to build for this, you've pre-approved this, I want the financing to build this. And that's where we're fine. That's where we coordinate with each other. That's critical. You as brokers and developers and industry experts want qualified buyers on your doorstep as soon as possible. So transparent and seamless for the buyer, quick to react for the supplier and developers, and transparent and clear-cut for regulators as well as the secondary market. So the secondary market, who will eventually buy these mortgages in the industry, knows that the process was clean and transparent enough technologically and in every way that they can buy these assets and know that these are secure assets. So a streamlined operation is very, very important in a mortgage company. There should be no reason for unnecessary delays. Finally, in the end of my presentation, I'd like to tell you that the mortgage platform has to manage 3 things that are very important. And that's why it has to be streamlined and has to be efficient. Because in the end, every component of the industry has to be profitable. There are no loss factors. There shouldn't be any loss factors in the industry. So we bring the demand together. We have to consider the real risk in the transaction for you and for us. And then we have to make sure that every transaction is profitable for you for us, and in the end, for the home buyer who is buying into something that has true value proposition over time, buying true equity into something that's valuable. Because there is nothing more valuable than real estate if it is done right. That is a critical investment for an individual, and it is a tremendous industry for developers and financiers. The real estate industry is very real, and it is a tremendous industry. So what I'd like to do is just summarize my points. There's a tremendous, tremendous foundation for the real estate industry and the mortgage finance sector to support that industry. The government sector and the real estate sector and the finance sector need to come together and respond to this quickly. Proper liquidity centers have to be created. The law, which looks tremendously excellent right now, has to be passed. And finally, the real estate sector needs to coordinate with the mortgage finance sector to develop this industry and go into the next phase. It's extremely important that we do that. We are actually in the midst of launching a major mortgage finance platform, a national mortgage, one of the largest ones in the country, over the next few months. And we are already coordinating with developers on how they can be part of the solution that we are providing to the country. And if there are developers here, I have two colleagues here, both from the Islamic Development Bank and ICD, as well as our strategic executive vice president here. Talk to them on how you can be involved. They'll be more than happy to talk to you. And I'm absolutely here to answer any questions that you have. Now, unfortunately, my presentation was in English, but we do have Mr. Riyad from ICD here. He'll help me in my Arabic expertise until I learn it over the next few months, inshallah. Thank you very much. Thank you. There's some questions in the market.
I think this is an exercise financier and developer need to start working on. All the supply, this is what prevents banking also from giving the adequate finance, is having the right product into the market. This is one of the major challenges. So from here, what kind of initiatives I think financier need to do to help supplier get to know the right supply and adequate supply? This is a kind of, I think, thinking we need to start implementing.
And that's an excellent question. And you know, when we talk to developers and when we go through these presentations, that is the one thing that they absolutely ask. How can we work with you? How can we work with you to know what the real supply is and how to build according to that? And the best way to do it, now we're working with different solutions. For example, the platform that we're building technology where we can actually help developers create white label financing offices in their sales place. So for example, you can have XYZ development company and we can station our system and call it XYZ financing so that we can create a one-stop shop for the person who walks in to buy. We will do all the back-end work, but the sales force of the developers can right there figure out what kind of affordability this person is walking in with and actually talk to that person intelligently about what kind of unit to buy, what kind of unit to build, and where they can fit them in. On the other hand, we are asking developers, we are building, actually, Wahid Sarij is right here, he is building a network of developers within the company who we will work with constantly as their financing arm, and we will work on certain sectors. For example, you can break down the income levels that you want to build for and do some pre-qualification of people and say, look, target this income level, build this much house, and we will get the qualified buyers. You know, if I walk to a developer and I say I have 1,000 qualified buyers who I will finance, and they range from home purchasing price from 600,000 to 1.2 million, the developer turns to me and says, if you have that, I'll build for it. Show me you have that, and we can show you that. So there has to be coordination. There has to be coordination, absolutely. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sultan Al-Shaibi, legal consultant. Many thanks for this rich presentation. My question is, what do you think is the proper role for law firms as to the real estate mortgage sector?